Hey, how's it going, everybody? We're back with part 2. I intended to do this all in one video. I'm not sure what it will look like exactly going forward. Depending on how much is available, I might do it as like a Monday, Friday thing. But since I had intended to do this all in one, I figured I would just post the part 2 the next day. So I wanted to get through talking about the costumes. One quick correction before we get into that. I made a mistake in the last video, and the Tavern of Legends that we talked about is not a building that's associated with Stronghold 24. I remember reading something that gave me that impression, but I double checked on it in response to a comment and did see that it is simply a recurring monthly quest. You do not need to be at any level in the game, as far as I know, to participate, except that if you don't have strong teams and 10 of them, then you're going to have a hard time getting all of the coins from the quest to be able to do pulls from it. So just want to include that correction, and then let's get in here and talk about the next costume. So the second costume I wanted to talk about, and the second 5-star costume I wanted to talk about, is Sartana. So this is I think this is the first 5-star I ever got, and I still have not ascended one yet. She's sort of a plain hero, like a lot of the Season 1 heroes are. The snipers of the Season 1 heroes, the fast snipers, have held their relevance the most, but I really like that they are dressing them up with some new stuff here. So the older version was an attack of 694, defense of 700, and HP of 1382. The new version that you can see here, the numbers that you're seeing for this card, I'm pretty sure, are without the costume bonus, because if we look at the card itself, we don't see that little gold costume symbol on there. So what that means is that the attack and defense would be 5% higher, and the HP would be 10% higher. And then there's that 5% mono bonus. So that seems hard for me to believe, because that would mean that the attack would be 685, the defense would be 771, and the HP would be 1558, which is like taking what was already one of the tankier snipers and increasing it dramatically. So you can see what they changed on her card, I think, is only a positive change in my opinion. They basically made her like Liana, but her damage percentage is even higher than Liana, which is insane. Her overall damage output, I think, would still be lower because her attack stat is decently lower, 685, but it's going to be pretty close, which is amazing, because Liana was one of the most relevant snipers, and now Sartana is going to be a really tanky version similar to her. So she's actually going to be really good, assuming the stuff stays the same. So I'll give the disclaimer again that this is stuff that's in beta. It's not been released. They have actually not widely released the image cards, but I still was able to find these online. So they got out somehow. I'm not really sure how that happened, but they also made her a fighter. So you have to use wizard emblems to, with the costumes, you always have to add the emblems to the base form. But she's going to be really good, because a lot of people don't have anywhere they really care to use their wizard emblems, but to be able to use wizard emblems to give fighter talents to what is unarguably a better version of an original hero is going to be an easy choice for many people, and maybe even myself. I don't know. Before, she was 450%, which is respectable, and then you receive poison damage afterwards. The poison damage is never going to be an advantage if you can have all that damage up front. And it looks like what they've done is they've put all that damage up front. So it's just, in my opinion, completely better. Obviously, I want you guys to take what I'm presenting and think it through for yourselves and see what you think. Maybe you think she's crap and there's someone you'd rather have, but I see good things here. I hope these stay the same. These will be coming in May, as far as we know, at the next costume event. They weren't here this time, and that made it easy for me not to use my keys, because I didn't want to just keep getting the same costumes again, because they're about to add a lot of 3 and 4 stars, which we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, I am really impressed with this costume. I'm surprised to see Liana dethroned in snipe percentage. The overall damage output, I think, is going to be close. Liana might still slightly have the edge, especially if you have the costume bonus, because that brings her attack stat up to like a 750 or something, which is considerably higher here. But this is one of the costumes I'm pretty excited about as well. Okay, so getting into the 4 stars now, let's talk about Kiril first. Kiril is one of the favorite Season 1 heroes still, especially for a 4-star. He sees a lot of play on a lot of people's different teams. And, being a healer support hero, his stats are not too impressive to support that. So the regular card, he's got a 656 attack, which is sort of irrelevant for what he's doing, but at least it's not in the 500s or something. 673 defense is on the sturdier side, and a 1034 HP. So they've changed his card again. Like the last one, these don't include the bonuses. So what his stats will actually be, and granted, if you get this costume and you level it up, the regular card, you get the costume bonus on as well. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that you don't actually have to use the costume version to get the stat boost. You just have to level the costume, and then both forms have the stat boost based on what their base form was when fully maxed. So yeah, his stats are going to be 702 attack, 680 defense, and 1153 HP. So he's a little more stout now. And the base form is still going to have the advantage in terms of defense because it's going to be 5% more than 673. The next thing is why are they making all of these heroes into secret musicians in a way? I hadn't even noticed there was a guitar on his back because I was distracted by the weird puffy sleeves and the headband and the beads in his beard. It's someone you might see at a reggae festival. Well, except the clothing, He's got a weird vibe going on here. But I think it's a little corny that they're bringing the musical instruments in. And this is coming from a guitarist, but I think it's a little corny that they're bringing the musical instruments into it. And Tibertus being the Duke of Rock is a little silly. But aside from the art, which I've had my reservations about, the heal is the same. 28% is on the lower side. I think that's the same as Bold Tusk. But what was good about Kiril was the increased attack and increased defense. And they were pretty modest at 30%, which I think is the same as the Dragon Banner battle item. What they've done is they've inverted this. Still a 28% heal, but now all enemies get minus 34% attack for 3 turns, and all enemies get minus 34% defense for 3 turns. So I think those numbers are similar to Buddy. They often stick with similar ranges when they apply these skills. So it's nice to have both options. I see them both being useful, and it's cool that you can just, click to an alternate version and choose what you think is relevant, and you get the stat boost on top of it. So these average speed heroes, once they get the 5% mana bonus, you only need a level 5 mana troop for them to charge in 1 less tile. So average speed hero normally charges in 10 tiles. Kiril would charge in 9 tiles with only a level 5 mana troop. So depending on how many troops you have in general, 4-star troops, it's not too hard to get one to level 5. So that way you can still get this great benefit. Normally you would need a level, for an average speed hero to charge in 1 less tile, typically you would need a level 23 mana troop, which is hugely significant. You probably, unless you're spending a ton of money on troops, you're going to have to be playing for a minimum of a year and consistently leveling your troops as you get feeders throughout. I'm still at the highest. Maybe level 16 troop is my highest right now, which is if you don't know, it's harder and harder with every single level. So I'm very far away from level 23, and I'm out of feeders right now. So, and I've been playing about 9 months. So it's probably more like a year and a half, depending on how lucky you get with blue feeders. So this 5% mana bonus is huge. In other words, level 5 mana troop versus level 23 is night and day. So I think this is going to be a great costume. Nice to have the stat boost. Nice to have the inverse effect and being able to choose between them. Artwork, a little dumb. Maybe some people like it, and that's fine. That's just my own opinion. But yeah, this is a cool costume. So the next 4-star that I want to talk about is Little John. This is a hero that I remember early on having big problems with him, because I think when your roster is weaker and your teams are weaker, your damage output is weaker. So slow heroes are more relevant because you can't win the match quickly enough to make them irrelevant. So when I was in those, the gold arena or the platinum arena where you're seeing this guy more, I was definitely having problems with him. Now he's almost too fragile to bring anywhere. But his new ability is pretty unique. So let me pull up the right picture here because I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay. So this is one where the card from beta did not have the stats printed properly on it. So his original one, 741 attack, 569 defense, 988 HP. So high attack, very low defense, and very low HP, which makes a slow hero not very helpful. He was dealing 185 to all enemies and then giving minus 64% mana generation for 3 turns. So anyone who's gone against Telluria now knows that minus 34% mana generation is hugely relevant, and minus 64 is just an absolute standstill. But getting him to fire is the difficult thing. So I don't find a lot of use with him these days, but what they've changed him to is pretty cool. So what I like to see was that they're adding abilities from other heroes and combining it. So his damage has stayed the same. He doesn't reduce mana, but now the caster and nearby allies have from plus 30% to plus 70% chance of dodging special attacks that do damage. So that's key, attacks that do damage. The higher the damage from the special is, that's weird wording, the higher the chance to dodge it. Each dodge gives a moderate amount of mana to the target. The effect lasts for 4 turns. So this is Margaret's ability, pretty much verbatim if I understand correctly. I have not looked at her very much, but I know that was her thing. Granted, she has it at fast speed, he has it at slow speed, but he's also a 4-star, not a 5-star, and he deals damage. So again, the stats on here are wrong. His stats are going to be 756 attack, 624 defense, and 1088 HP. So that's going to be nice. Not super relevant maybe, but if I get him, I'll level him up, because like in rush attack, that would be really awesome. It would basically be Margaret with a bunch of damage. And she has her place. I think since you have to use 6 tonics, Damascus Blade, and a Tome of Tactics to level her up, that's a much tougher sell than just 4 shields. And then with a costume, I think it's just 1 shield if you already have him maxed, which I do. So if I get this, I will definitely level it up, because I think it doesn't take up any more roster space and it gives you added flexibility. So that's another thing that I haven't touched on yet that's occurring to me right now. These costumes give you a ton of added versatility with no detriment to your roster space. So that is huge. Everyone faces roster space problems. It's an annoying thing about the game that they make you pay for that, and it gets increasingly more expensive. So that's a whole different story. But this is a cool costume. It'll have its place. The stat boost is going to be nice. Doesn't cost much to level it up, and it gives you a lot of added versatility. So I think this one is also pretty cool for the 4 stars. Okay, so now we're getting into the 3 stars, and I'm honestly equally excited about the 3 stars. The 5 stars still have a very low chance to get them, so it's cool what they do, but you can't count on it. Everyone knows that. The 3 stars and 4 stars, you are going to get these. So that's exciting, and it just makes the tournaments more fun. Sometimes the tournaments are a bit of a drag, but if you have good variety, and again, the costumes, like I said, give you that added versatility without having to store extra heroes in your roster. So it's a huge win in my opinion. So Renfield, one of the most hated heroes, has got a really nice makeover. Not the appearance. He kind of looks like your creepy college art teacher, with this saw for some reason, but the ability is awesome. So they really cut his attack down. I forgot to do the calculations beforehand, but just add 5% to the attack and defense and the HP. You can see they're not going to change dramatically. For the HP, it's 10%. It's easier calculation. It'll go up by 80, so he'll be at about 900, which is pretty hefty for a 3-star. But the cool thing is, oh, again, I'm looking at the wrong picture again, so give me 1 second. Got it right here. Okay, yeah, so the card is not correct. What you're seeing is going to be the stats overlaid on there, so sorry about that interruption. But he basically is a 3-star Onatel, which is crazy. I just can't believe they in the past have always reserved the better abilities for the higher star level heroes. We're just these like what's his name? Gunner and Wilbur, for example. Wilbur is 4-star. Gunner is a 3-star. Wilbur does the Spirit Link for both enemies and allies, with increased defense for allies, decreased defense for enemies. Gunner is similar, but he only does one or the other, and he does it at slow speed. So it's always worse. However, Renfield is average speed, and I believe Onatel is also average speed. So this is one of the situations where I feel like they're really giving a lot away, and it's just very accessible. So I'm definitely going to level up a Renfield. I don't think I have one right now, but I'll get one pretty easily. So deals 195% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. So that's nothing crazy. But the good part, and especially for offensive use, which is where I think this ability is more easy to make best use of, the caster steals generated mana of the target and nearby enemies over 4 turns, starting low and increasing every turn until on the last turn all generated mana is stolen. This effect can't be dispelled, but gets removed if the caster dies. That I thought they'd at least make it dispellable or something. So this is just kind of blew my mind a little bit that they were willing to put this ability on a 3-star hero. That actually gives me a lot of hope for the game, that they're stingy and they're always going to be in ways, but this is a win in my opinion. So like, for example, they came out with Pixie, the event hero, which are always more rare than, a season 1 hero, and even rarer than the costumes are. And she's like Hansel, but at average speed, and obviously the stats are not as good, so more like what's her name, Gretel. However, yeah, there's no downgrade here from Onatel's ability that I can see. The damage is probably less, but that's okay. So anyways, this is impressive, and it's really nice to see them. I think they intentionally took a hero that people hated, and I don't know if people actually hate him, but people just kind of love to hate him, and put an awesome ability on there. So this is one I'm really excited and will level up in a heartbeat. So next up, and certainly last but not least, Friar Tuck. Another hero that people did not like, including myself. It doesn't help that he looks really creepy and weird, and they did not help him at all by giving him that mustache. But we're just going to have to live with the art. It's kind of hilarious that he's just out there like catching butterflies too. So Friar Tuck is now the Jovial Explorer. And they've changed these names a little bit. So again, just another reminder, this stuff can change. Don't fault me if it does. This is just the most recent information available at the moment. So the stats have stayed largely in the same range. Just keep in mind that there will be this extra 5% bonus on attack and defense, 10% on HP. I didn't bother doing the calculations for the 3 stars, but because I don't think anyone's going to really care that much about it. You just want to have a rough idea on where they are sitting, because these are kind of just more for fun for the tournaments, in my opinion. Granted, that depends on where you're at in the game, but regardless of where you're at, that point does come eventually. So what is cool is that he now heals for all. So he used to recovers 37% health for the caster and nearby allies, and then the caster and nearby allies get 24% mana generation for 3 turns, plus 24%. what they've done is they've decreased his heal a little bit, and that's at average speed, by the way. They've decreased his heal to 22%, but all allies get plus 24% mana generation for 3 turns. That's like a mini aerial. I mean, it doesn't have the cleanse. You know, there are things that are different about it, but that's great. Like, that's going to be so practical in many situations. The other mana gen, I think the only other 3-star mana gen hero is Bao-Chan. I guess that's how you say his name, the Avalon red 3-star. And I guess he does all heroes as well, I think. Yeah, don't have that in front of me, so we'll just have to speculate on that for now. But this is hugely useful. And again, these are going to be things that the 3-stars are going to just be pouring out like nothing in the costume chamber. So you're going to have these, and some of them are going to be really helpful. Like, this would be a great hero to have in the tournaments. You know, that's the main place where I use these ones, but I am still excited. You know, I think it's important to try to find things that you still like about the game. It's very easy to fall into the place of like, oh yeah, of course I didn't get this, and of course that happened, and oh, still no Ascension materials. But try to not put as much pressure on the pacing and just find things that are fun about it. So maybe you can't level that hero you can't level that hero you would like to fully ascend yet, but you know, there are other fun things happening in the game, and I think it's important to find those things. And for me, that's what these costumes are. It's like, yeah, I love this idea, and I get, you know, at least 2 to 3 free pulls every month, so bring it on. Yeah, there's I think I put up the full list in the last video. I'll put it here right now so you can see what's coming. It doesn't give you an idea of what the costumes are going to do. There's just too many to cover. It would be like an hour-long video, so I'm not going to do that. But you can see if you have these heroes already and know that if they're maxed to begin with, it's not going to take much for you to level the costume up. So that's something to be excited about. I was so close to feeding my maxed Friar Tuck away, and I'm glad that I didn't, because I'll probably get this costume and I will absolutely level it up and probably use only the costume version. He's a little less offensive to look at in the suit than just his amorphous blob of a body in that robe with the suggestive glass balls on his waist. So aside from that, a welcome change in my opinion. So this is what I think about the costumes. Granted, there's a lot more. You got the list in front of you now. Decide what you think about them, and yeah, we'll check in next week on Monday, and I'll update you on what's going on with beta. Maybe we'll talk about some more costumes depending on how much there is to go over. There's been great feedback and support for this video type, which is really awesome. It seemed like a good idea to me because there was nothing out there like this. So I think it's been a good resource. I'm looking forward to continuing to do it. So let me know as we go along what you guys like, what you don't. I made the mistake with the audio in the first one where I was not editing through headphones, and so it was only in the left channel. I think not many people watch these on headphones, so I don't know if they noticed that, but I fixed it in this video. So we will continue to make great strides forward and increase the quality of the content. So thank you guys so much for all the support, comments, the likes, subscribing, all that stuff. I'll see you guys in the next video.